All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network just released his second mock draft of the offseason. The Jets are obviously picking 7. Let's take a look at, of course, who he has the Jets going with at spot number 7, but also break down pick by pick how we get to that point. So starting things off, we got the Tennessee Titans, and he has them going with edge rusher from Penn State, Abdul Carter. Tennessee's a team right now with just a ton of holes. You can't... Like, if you're a team in the Titans and you want to go with like the quote unquote best player in the draft, or of course that's up for debate too, right? Is it a Travis Hunter? Is it a Carter? There's a lot of debate going around, but you can definitely argue Abdul Carter in this situation, especially if the Titans go out and maybe sign a Sam. If they figure out the quarterback position in free agency, right? They're not 100% sold on Shedeur or Cam Ward, and they're like, hey, you know what? Borgonzi, first year as general manager. We need an impact piece. We need someone with a high floor, but at the same time, a high ceiling. And Carter would be coming in at a premium position here. So it's hard to argue. The only, of course, obvious pushback, if they don't sign a quarterback in free agency and it's just Will Levis on the roster again, then it's like, okay, like you got to love Jackson Dart, you gotta love a Kyle McCord in the later rounds, because I just don't. I mean, Callahan was on the hot seat after one season, so I do like this pick. It's just a matter of if the Titans signed a quarterback in free agency. If they don't, they swing and miss, and they strike out on all these different free agent quarterbacks. And obviously, the market isn't too strong with quarterback and free agency. And then you pass on quarterback again. I don't know how I would really, feel about that if I was a Titans fan. Okay, so next up at pick number 2, he has the Browns going with Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Now, this is an interesting pick because you don't really see many people mocking a quarterback to the Browns. I think really the reasoning behind that is Kevin Stefanski hasn't really shown the maybe want to build his offensive system around a quarterback's skill set. He has a system and he's going to stick to it. I mean, the team went out and traded how many picks for Deshaun Watson, gave him how much guaranteed, and they came in and said, no, you run my system. We're not going to build it around your strengths or your skill set. You run my system. If they're going to do that to, at the time, the highest paid player in the highest paid quarterback in football, it makes you question who would they do it for. So you do have that question mark. And of course, Kevin Stefanski has to win this season. There were some rumblings, could the Cleveland Browns and Kevin part ways for this upcoming season. They ended up retaining him. If the Browns roll out another season like this, I could definitely see, a change with head coach. So I think with this pick right here, you can 100% justify it because the Cleveland Browns don't have a franchise quarterback on their roster. But is Cam Ward ready to play right now? Is this a situation where you maybe re-sign Jameis Winston on a cheap 1-year deal? You give him the starting nod for like half the year or up until the point where you feel like Cam Ward is ready to play? If that's the case, then I do like this selection. Okay, so next up at spot number 3, he has the New York Giants going with Travis Hunter. Basically just football weapon is the position here. And I love Travis Hunter as a prospect, but I just feel like this, to me, this has got to be under the assumption that the Giants sign a quarterback in free agency. DeVito's a free agent. Daniel Jones, obviously, we know how that situation went. The Giants simply do not have a quarterback. There's tons of smoke surrounding the Giants and Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is here on the board. I got to be honest. If DJ was putting together this mock, he must have another quarterback in mind for the Giants. Maybe Jackson Dart in round 2. But you can argue that might be a little high for him. And is he ready to go day 1? I don't know. I think for me, this pick has got to be a quarterback. It's got to be Cam Ward or it's got to be Shedeur Sanders. I think Cam Ward's probably the better systematic fit for Brian Daboll, but if Ward is off the board, I think I would go Sanders here. Next up at spot number 4 is the New England Patriots going Will Campbell. And, I do like this thinking. Right, you have your cornerstone of the franchise, Drake May, someone who flashed a lot last season in an absolutely horrible situation. Gerard Mayo, one and done as a head coach, AVP. He's not brought back either. He doesn't have talent on the offensive line. He doesn't have offensive weapons. The team just did not have that much help around Drake May, but at the same time, he still flashed and made plays. So I get it, right? You got to be able to add some talent to this offensive line to protect your cornerstone, the crown jewel of the franchise. The problem that I have with this pick, I just don't know if Will Campbell should be taken this high. When I'm thinking about Will Campbell, I'm thinking about maybe like pick 10. And Jeremiah actually addresses it in the little description. He does say that there are higher rated players available here, according to his board, but the Pats need to upgrade their offensive line in a big way. Next up, spot number 5, he has the Jacksonville Jaguars going with Mason Graham, D-tackle from Michigan. I like this pick a lot, right? I think Mason Graham is one of these high floor, high ceiling types of players. I think he's one of the safest players in the draft. He's the best defensive tackle in the draft. He can affect the passer. He can stop the run. Obviously, if you pair him up next to Travon Walker and Josh Allen, and of course Eric Armstead, the Jaguars, man, do they have a stacked defense? Like, just talk about a defensive line, talk about a unit in football with just, like, you just feel like the sky's the limit. I mean, Graham would come in and just take so much pressure off of the other defensive linemen. And that division, like, I could see the Jacksonville Jaguars, the AFC South to me is a bit weird. You feel like at any point one team can pull away. And also something to make a note of here, I think Jacksonville's in a really, really good position. They could go with Will Johnson, the corner. They can go with Ted McMillan. You can definitely argue that with Liam Cohen coming in. Like, the Jaguars can trade back, accumulate some more stuff, accumulate more assets. I think the Jaguars, really, no matter who they pick, they're going to be like one of the winners coming out of this first round, if you will, in the top 10. They just have so many team needs. They can go in a bunch of different directions and be fine. Next up at spot number 6, he has the Las Vegas Raiders going with Shedeur Sanders, QB from Colorado. I love this pick, right? If Sanders is on the board here, to me, I just feel like the Raiders got to pull the trigger here. They're desperate for a franchise guy. They're desperate for someone to come in and just really, in my opinion, grab the bull by the horns and really take this team and push them in the right direction. I think Shedeur Sanders has a higher floor than Cam Ward, although you can argue maybe Cam Ward has the higher ceiling. But man, Sanders in this style of offense with, two dynamic tight ends in Brock Bowers and Mayer, having that high-end second-round pick, and also factoring in the Raiders' amount of cap space. Of course, that number will come down a little bit based off of players that they have to re-sign, but they still have over $80 million in available cap space at this point in time. So you got to imagine that they're going to be a player in adding talent to the offensive side of the football. Now, much like the Jaguars and the Jets, the Raiders can go in a bunch of different directions. They can address wide receiver. They need help there. They can address the cornerback position as well. Will Johnson on the board. But this, to me, if Shedeur Sanders is here, this just makes sense for the Raiders, in my opinion. And last but not least here, at pick number 7, he has the Jets going again with Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State. Now, you can definitely argue that pick 7 for a tight end is a little bit too high. That is justifiable, and it's 100% a point that you can argue. But again, right now, I think the Jets just need flat out talent. They need to fill roster holes. They need to add talent. Tyler Warren helps out in the running game, and he helps out in the passing game. We don't know who the Jets quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Jordan Travis? Is it going to be Tyrod Taylor? Is it going to be a free agent? We've heard Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields all kind of be mentioned with the Jets. Is it going to be maybe someone picked later in the draft? No matter who it is, Tyler Warren is going to be just a humongous upgrade over what the Jets had a year ago over Tyler Conklin and what the Jets currently have, where Tyler Conklin is set to hit the open market, and you can argue Tyler Conklin is the best free agent tight end. And tight end is one of those positions where you just don't have access to top 5 tight ends in football. They just don't become available. They just don't hit the market. And if one becomes like up for trade, you got to go trade a haul to go get them, which rarely happens. So I think Tyler Warren checks a lot of different boxes. If the Jets want to maybe like maximize day one impact, Tyler Warren would again fill that void. Helps the quarterback, whoever it's going to be, helps out the running game. You're potentially adding a top 5 tight end early in his career. I don't know if he's going to be a top 5 tight end next season, but you got to imagine in year 2, he's going to be knocking on the door. Like, that's how good of a prospect Warren is. I don't think he's as good as Bowers. And, it's not to say that he's like the perfect prospect out there with just the 1 year of a ton of production. But man, I do love Warren's game. I really do. physical, aggressive, looks for contact, doesn't shy away from it, isn't scared to make a play. It's almost like he plays the game with give me the ball mentality and I will go make a play. I will go score that touchdown. I will go pick up that first down. And I love players like that, but just like that internal motor. Like I have that full belief in myself to make a play and I'm not scared of the moment. Very athletic too. Now it is interesting because Ted McMillan is on the board, and if we imagine that Devontae Adams is going to be released, if we imagine that Allen Lazard is going to be released, we're going to have just a huge need at the wide receiver position opposite of Garrett Wilson. And there are still Garrett Wilson trade request rumors. You know, could the Jets almost be forced into taking a wide receiver? Because I highly doubt that the Jets are going to release both of those guys, again, Adams and Lazard, and hit the free agent market and just hand out a huge contract to one of the to one of the available guys. I just don't really feel like that will be in play. Could they trade for someone? Maybe, but I think McMillan could very well be in play if he's on the board here. And he would also provide a lot of the bullet points that Tyler Warren would provide, right? Where he helps out the quarterback, whoever it is, he's going to take pressure off of Garrett Wilson. He provides a different skill set to Garrett Wilson with the massive catch radius, the big play ability down the field, being a red zone threat, all the production back at Arizona. And then if you don't want to go with Warren or McMillan, you can definitely argue Will Johnson, right? Because the Jets have a need at corner too. And Michael Carter is one of the highest paid slot guys. You got to imagine that Gardner is going to be getting a lot of money if he bounces back under Aaron Glenn. So do the Jets, because I've seen, there's a lot of different like free agency projections out there, and a lot of people are, looking at the Jets saying, okay, well, the team's probably going to lose DJ Reed. Could Aaron Glenn want to go after maybe someone that he's coached before, like a Carlton Davis, and pay him $13 million? I just don't see the Jets and Darren Muji investing so much cash into the corner position. But with Will Johnson in the first round, you can argue, okay, you're getting a true corner one at 7 on a cheap rookie deal for 5 years, and you're looking at the corner room. You can argue that would be the best. It would definitely be the best young corner room in football between those three. But you could argue, again, assuming Gardner bounces back, that is the best corner room in the entire National Football League. And with Will Johnson, you're getting CB1 production for a cheap rookie deal. And he would be the corner 2 of the football team. So he would have a lot of opportunities to make plays in the football. It's just thinking about that, just absolute blanket and coverage is crazy. And then, of course, you can push back and say, okay, well, we can always give Eccles a shot. We can give Quantez Stigers a shot at corner 2 and maybe invest the money, the millions of dollars that they would have spent on corner or even this first round pick here in safety, right? If the team wants to go out and pay like a Javon Holland and draft an offensive weapon and then put, again, Stigers or Eccles at corner 2, now all of a sudden that safety that you just paid a lot of money to is going to take pressure off of that second corner. And you go out and you have the flexibility to make something happen on the offensive side of the first round here. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. How do you like Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft here? Of course, I'll leave it linked down below in the description box. And as always, thanks so much. Go Jets.